This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by DigitalOcean and by Ting. Go to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device or your first month of service. Welcome to the Linux Action Show, episode 319. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you ready for me to tell folks about the big show today?
Heck yes.
All right, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, we're going to show you how to share files over the network. Have you ever tried to connect to like a Windows box? You've gone into your file manager and it's just blank? We'll show you how to solve that. We'll also show you how to share files from your Linux box to a Windows box.
Sweet.
And a how-to segment coming up in this week's episode. And then in the news segment, we're going to take a look at some of the amazing new features coming to OwnCloud 7 that I think are awesome.
Very, very cool. That I'm looking forward to.
Ready for this one? A quick look at Linux Mint 17 KDE edition in the news segment also.
Yes.
Double the looks, double the takes.
Yes,
I don't know what that means, but it almost sounded dirty.
Double your fun.
And then in the feedback segment, we're going to ask what you would do to prepare for an internet apocalypse.
Oh, boy.
You know, if you had to go without internet for maybe a few days, maybe a month, maybe a summer.
It could happen. Hey, natural disasters, man. Saying.
We got an email in from a Linux Action Show listener who said, I got to prepare my Linux box for an extended stay away from the internet. So what would you do? So we're going to ask you, and we're going to answer that question too in the feedback. And we also got a few announcements in the feedback. So it's a big show today.
Big show.
Big show, Matt. But let's start with our picks.
Yeesh.
And this week, our Runs Linux is this Raspberry Pi controlled aquaponics. Is that how you say it? Aquaponics?
This isn't one of the new businesses that cropped up in Washington recently,
Well,
right?
you can use, no, that's something else. But
Okay.
This is actually more for food.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
especially like
I think it's here you go, aquaponics. Yep, right there. It's a food production system that combines conventional aquaculture, like raising aquatic animals such as snails, fish, crayfish, or prawns in tanks, with hydroponics, which is what you're thinking of for the crop there.
Yeah, for other things.
Which is cultivating plants in water in a symbiotic environment. In a normal aquaculture, excretions from animals being raised can accumulate in the water, increasing toxicity. In an aquaphonic system, water from aquaculture systems is fed into hydroponic systems where the byproducts are then broken down by nitrogen-eating bacteria, which turns it into nitrates and et cetera, which then the plants eat.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So because the bacteria, the animals poop, the things break down the poop into nitrates and nitrites, and then the plants eat that, and Bob's your uncle. You've got really fast-growing plants and a self-sustaining system. However, you have to manage the water. You have to manage all of the things underneath it, the drainage, all of this stuff to make it work. So they have built a system that runs around a Raspberry Pi controlling the pump, the drain, and the temperature probes for the water, and also air temperature sensors. It relays timing and is controlled with a Python script.
Nice.
Temperatures and control data are collected every minute and sent to plot.ly for graphing, and future expansion will include sensors for water level and pH values, just for like an additional upgrade cost later on. And all of the scripts are available on GitHub too.
You know what they need to do at community colleges? They need more Pi-related stuff like this, because I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, so...
That's awesome.
Now, okay, this is early days, but you see, it looks like it's about the size of a hot tub, right?
Right, you could do this in your backyard.
Exactly. So think of, like, we're going to talk about internet apocalypse. Well, just think about, like, just be able to have more self-sustained food growing in your backyard in something that takes the space of a hot tub that is powered and controlled by a Raspberry Pi and Python.
And actually knowing what's going into your body from point A to point B.
That's true, too. Yeah, so here he is. He's running the Python script.
Nice.
He's telling it what pump to run and for how long, where to hold in which grow bed, and how many cycles to wait for it, how many cycles total. And there he goes. He just kicked off the pump with a Python script.
That's so awesome.
And then you can see over here, it starts pumping the water into the bed. There it goes.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that cool? So now it's running.
I wish this was local. We could go check it out.
I know, really. This does seem like something that would happen in Washington, though.
It really does, yeah.
This seems like a Washington initiative. And there you can see there's the water drainage
with
going
all the
down into
farmers
the bucket.
markets and stuff, right? I mean, just all the food exchanges.
How cool is that?
That is so awesome. I mean, it's not just practical, but it's also really, really awesome.
And so everything that he's done to make that work is available up on his GitHub page, and we have the links in the show notes if you guys want to read about it and check it out. If you got something you want to automate, I was looking at it too, and I was thinking you could use this too to also automate a cool fish tank setup, because some of this stuff applies to managing a large saltwater fish tank. You know, monitoring the temperatures, the pH level, the waters, the bacteria, all that stuff.
I wonder if people had like swimming pools. If you could do something similar, it's like, okay, I need to drain the pool. I need need to, text message the pool cleaner guy, whatever, right?
Barry in our live chat room says, hey, this is open source food.
It is, actually,
right?
Yeah. I mean, it really is, because they're cultivating the whole package.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
All right, Matt. Well, I've got a pick this week that's going to help soothe the OCD in you. If you've got, if you get a little OCD sometimes.
Man, sometimes.
All right. Well, first, let me tell you about our sponsor this week, and that's DigitalOcean. Head over to DigitalOcean.com now. This is the end of June, so if you want to be a rock star and you want to use the promo code LASTJune to give us that end of month boost, oh man, that little pow to keep us going, we would appreciate it. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use the promo code LASTJune. Now, if this is too far into July when you're catching this, hey, I won't call you out. It just means you're behind. That's your bad. That means you got stuff you need to sort out, but in the meantime, I'm going to hook you up. Use the promo code LASTJuly. Huh? That's going to save you $10 over at DigitalOcean. You can try out the $5 rig. Now, what is DigitalOcean? DigitalOcean is simple cloud hosting dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. We've had folks in our audience that have gotten this going in like 40 seconds.
Crazy.
It is nuts. And that just sort of a testament to how awesome the DigitalOcean interface is, sitting on top of Linux and KVM, managing all of this using SSD drives. Check out what you get for $5. You can get 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD. And think about the I/O density you're going to get out of that SSD, a blazing fast CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. All of those things are right there for $5. No surprise gotchas. No, oh, you use this much CPU. Oh, you use this much bandwidth. No, it's $5. And when you use the promo code LASTJune, you're going to get that $10 credit. You can try it for 2 months for free. They've also got hourly pricing. So, I mean, if you use the hourly pricing, you could probably really stretch that out. And DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, and Amsterdam. I would have loved to have been the guy to go set up the Amsterdam.
That would be cool. They got a lot of cool things to see.
They probably had to send somebody over there from the States. I mean, I guess they probably employ people over there.
Oh, no, I'm sure they got
for setup, right? They had to send somebody, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the interface is simple. Their control panel is super intuitive. And power users can replicate that control panel on their own with their sweet API. Go check it out over at DigitalOcean.com. You use the promo code LASTJune, unless you're a slacker. Then you probably want to use LASTJuly.
Yes.
But you can still save $10 even though you're a slacker. God, I just take care of you. Go over to DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code LASTJune. And a huge thank you to DigitalOcean for rocking the Linux Action Show support, for building such a cool system on top of KVM, and really showing us how this next generation of Linux technologies can power a brand new platform. And it's a box that you can get root control over. You can manage the DNS from there. Their droplet system is awesome. It's a great setup. DigitalOcean.com, promo code LASTJune. Thanks, DigitalOcean.
Good stuff.
Love you guys. All right, Matt, so I told you I'd help you quell the OCD monster. You know about Beats, not the headphones.
Not the...
Oots, no. BEETS, no, not the veggie. This is a program that you install on the command line and gives you full command line management of a folder-based music library. So if you're one of those out there who prefers to keep your music in folders and directories and not so much in like Rhythmbox or Amarok or whatever, X-Noise. Oh, hey, by the way, pour one out for X-Noise. They just announced that they're ending development. Yeah. Which is too bad because I actually like X-Noise. Anyways, back off the bummer train. What Beats allows you to do is have all of the capabilities of a really sophisticated graphical music manager, but keep it all in folders, keep it all in the command line. Beats goes in, what you do, the way it works is you tell Beats, import this directory into a quote-unquote library. Okay. Beats pulls in all of the files. As it pulls in all the files, it analyzes the metadata, finds where things maybe are mismatched, where files aren't named correctly, and does a really sophisticated, really good job at cleaning it up. It uses the MusicBrainz database to pull in, like, file information. It can get track information. It can get album art. It can clean all this up. It can rename files. It can sort files into folders based on artist or album. You can query Beats. So because once it builds a library, you can say, Beats, show me all of my music from 2012, and it'll just give you a directory listing of all of your music that's from 2012. And then you can say, Beats, copy all of my music from 2012 and put it on this thumb drive or something like that.
I like it.
All from the command line. Super simple commands. Beats, install.
So you're not getting all distracted with all this other.
And then if you just want to use a folder structure for the most part, and then just take care of the metadata management and things like that through Beats, you can. And then it's sort of, it's your game. You don't depend on any particular music player. And at the end of the day, Beats is writing these things to the ID3 tags. It can rename the files if you wanted to. It can organize the folders. So even if you stopped using Beats down the road, everything Beats would do would still be there. You don't have to go back to using Beats. The nice thing about using Beats is it does keep all of that information in a library. That's the preferred way to use it, is to continue to use Beats to manage the metadata in Beats itself.
I'll tell you what, if you got like networked music directories or whatnot, and you're like sharing them across multiple computers and hell, multiple platforms for that matter, I love the fact that you truly aren't tied to anyone.
Right.
I mean, that takes care of you.
Conseco says that this app can be integrated in with Tomahawk Player really well too, which is super nice. It's a very sophisticated program. I've played with it a little bit. I don't have a ton of music on the Benobes, but here I'll fire it up for you so you can see it. So yeah, I have. Let me change over to my on-screen profile so you can see it a little easier. So Beats, it's just B-E-T for the command, not BTS, and you get all of it. So you can see you can do an import, you can list. So let's see what it's gotten so far, because I was playing with this last night. Beat list. Didn't put anything out there. And I can say beat update if I've added files. I can migrate my config if I want to move off this machine. It's pretty cool. It also has some features that I couldn't get working. In the show notes, I have linked a kind of a video from the developer who kind of walks through how you do stuff. And in here, let's see if I can find it. He talks about, here it is, right here. Here, I'll turn up the audio so you can.
A built-in web interface you can use. Just run the web server and access it through your browser, and you can use the same query syntax we're using from the command line to look at our music in a graphical interface. And using this, you can actually even play your music through your web browser using HTML5 audio.
Now, I wasn't able to get the web interface part to work, but according to him, you just type in Beats Web and it'll start up a web server itself, and then you just put that web server in any browser that's on your LAN, and you get access to the Beats music library.
Oh, okay.
And so you can see all of the metadata collected. You can play music from there. This is such a cool way if you just prefer to manage your music on the file system.
That'd be me.
But you just need a little extra something, like maybe like you downloaded some music, or Amazon has put like crappy tags in there or something like that.
Boy.
Beats will just go in there and clean all that up for you.
I love that. And I'm telling you, dude, for a network situation, this would be the bomb, because you'd just be able to plop it somewhere, let it handle all the finagling, and then you can listen to it however you wish. Fred
in the chat room says that I needed Python 2 Flask, Python 2-Flask to make the web server. Oh, okay.
There you go.
I might not have had that, so that's good to know. So anyways, BETS, you can find it at bets.radbox.org, or just use the link in the show notes.
Nice.
And go get your S cleaned up. And they're also at B33TS on Twitter, at B33TS. If you
I am going to be checking that out.
Okay, Matt.
Okay.
I wanted to put into the spotlight this week. Our spotlight pick is something that could give folks help and how-to.
Right.
We're kind of doubling down on help and how-to in this episode of the Linux Action Show, coming up in the how-to segment. I thought, why not give you something to let you go fish instead of just giving you the fish? We're going to teach you how to fish. It's a resource we've never actually brought up on the show before, but it's incredibly useful. Unix.stackexchange.com. You might have known about this, but if you haven't known about this, I wanted to point you over there. I've included the link in the show notes. It's already sorted by top votes. I love this list. It's just interesting things, like what is the exact difference between a terminal, a shell, and a TTY and a console? Or understanding the Linux kernel source, or what is the purpose of the lost plus found folder in Linux? Why should I not kill the -9 process? What are the pros and cons of Vim and Emacs? Of course, that one probably is a little heated. But,
there's some debate there, I think.
But these are probably questions. These top voted questions are probably ones that some of you have at least asked yourself. Like, why is FreeBSD deprecating GCC in favor of Clang and LLVM? Why are they? I don't know. I can't recall.
There's things everyone.
It's a license thing. Come on, it's FreeBSD. But anyways, it's just a really awesome resource. Plus, you can use it to ask questions, answer questions if you feel like you're in a position to do so. You guys probably know about Stack Exchange. I don't need to tell you about it, but I just wanted to remind you that resource is available. And if you sort by the top voted, there's just some big questions that a lot of Linux users have probably had that they've never really needed to know the answer to, but have at least wondered. And there's definitely some of those in there too. So unix.stackexchange.com, and that's our spotlight.
Great resource.
Yeah, very much so. And maybe you might be in a position out there to make it even better and contribute and stuff. I think they have like a karma system and all that junk too.
That's cool.
Makes it fun and gamey, right?
Yes.
All right, Matt, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode's brought to you by
Ting.com. Matt, Ting is mobile that makes sense. Ting is my mobile service provider and Mr. Matt's mobile service provider. Boomsies.
Bam, bam, bam.
You know, this week I'm back on Android because there's a new Android update. Last week I'm on Ubuntu Touch. I tell you what, I'm all over the place and I'm rocking it on my Ting network. And you know why? Because it's mobile that makes sense. No contracts. No early termination fee. Let that sink in.
Mm-hmm.
No contract. That's nice. Doesn't that feel good? And hey, here's the best part. You only pay for what you use. Flat $6 per month, and then it's just your usage billed on top of that. It's super, super easy, super straightforward, massively, massively easy to monitor, too, because you know why? You know why? Ting's got a great dashboard.
They do.
Ting's got a really good dashboard.
They do.
In fact, I think that's one of my favorite features as a longtime Ting customer now is the fact that I can manage my account so easily. Using the Ting dashboard, I get a quick glance of where it's at. I can set alerts, call forwarding options, and all kinds of things like that. On the pre-show, too, Matt and I were just kind of like, hey, Matt, what was your pre-Ting bill? You know, we were talking about 2 devices because your wife and you are going to share a phone or a phone plan. About 900 minutes, 600 text messages, about 300 megabytes because, we're pretty Wi-Fi heavy users. And there, Matt would say, it's about $130. Yeah. So let's just calculate the 2-year savings now by switching to Ting. And you go over to...
Holy cow.
Whoa!
That is a Bonobes right there. That's
a Bonobes.
I just bought a Bonobes,
$1,992 in 2 years by switching to Ting. Go to last.ting.com. That'll take $25 off your first Ting device. If you got a device compatible with the Ting network, they'll give you a $25 credit.
Nice.
If you're like me, that'll pay for more than your first month. And, Ting likes to do app picks.
They do love to do app picks.
We used to do app picks, and then basically Kyra came along and showed me how you actually do app picks, and I was like, oh, I can't do app picks anymore.
No, she does it better.
And Kyra's here to school me on something. Her app pick this week, not only is it super handy, and something that I think you're a user of, too.
Yes.
But I didn't realize it was even available for Android.
Yeah, I didn't either. I back in the day, I used to use it on the iPhone a lot.
So I think Kyra's going to school us right now, Matt.
Own a small business and often on the go? I'm Kyra, and this is Ting's App of the Week.
Ah! Go Ting!
Yeah.
Go Ting!
Square lets you accept credit card payments directly through your smartphone. Using a free reader sent to you by Square, you can instantly process Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express cards, no matter where you are. Square's pricing model makes sense. Pay 2.75% per swipe for all major credit cards. Nothing extra. No monthly fees or commitments. Simply pay a small percentage on each sale you make. Then, 1 or 2 business days later, Square deposits the payments into your bank account. Regularly selling products or services? Tap the menu button in Library. Here you can build an item library to automatically register totals, simplifying your selling process. To use the app, enter a payment amount, or choose a saved item from your virtual shop. Swipe a credit card, and that's it. A digital receipt will be displayed, which can be signed by the customer on the touch screen.
That's pretty sweet.
I love that feature right there.
Square will also email or text the receipt to the customer, whichever they'd prefer. Sign into Square's web dashboard to access your transaction data and analyst tools. You can download your selling history as a CSV file, which will open in Excel, Google Drive, and all other spreadsheet applications. Tap Account to view your recent sales activity. Tap Settings to access more tools. You can set Square to skip signatures for payments under $25, add tax, tipping, and more. The Square Reader encrypts credit card info at swipe, keeping your customers' personal information secure. Square Reader is available for free on Android and iPhone.
There you go.
Links in the description below.
Love it.
I'm Kyra, and thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for future videos.
And you can give those Canadians a call anytime between 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern at 1-855-TING-FTW, and a real person will answer the phone. They can solve your problem, answer your questions. That's another nice benefit of Ting. Last.ting.com. And a huge thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Okay, Matt, let's jump into the news this week. We're going to start with a little OwnCloud news, which is very exciting. OwnCloud fans here on the show, and they've introduced some new features that I am stoked about. So we're looking at the Community Edition right here. OwnCloud 7 Community Edition gives users, they say, a Dropbox-like experience with a new web interface, mobile web support, file notifications, and email or activity stream, and significant performance improvements.
I like significant performance improvements as a general rule.
Okay, here's the feature I'm actually excited about, because that other stuff sounded like marketing stuff.
It does sound a little marketing.
OwnCloud 7 Community Edition will enable OwnCloud server-to-server synchronization.
Ooh, sweet stuff. Ooh.
And you will be able to share files between servers without having to build like external links and stuff like that. I'll just be able to send Matt a file. It'll show up on his OwnCloud server.
Dude.
They've updated the user management control panel. They have a much improved external storage control. And they have new files view that is a new view in the web interface to show you all the recently updated files. They're doing lazy loading of files. So files that are below the page.
Right.
Instead of OwnCloud trying to figure out like, oh, I got to load everything that could be rendered on the screen, it'll load what you can see and then lazily load the additional files below it to make the UI more responsive.
I like that a lot. See, I mean, stuff like that really matters to me because that's a great user experience, I think.
Yeah, and they also have new storage location reports. It's a view that enables users to list any files that are stored in external locations, like you can attach FTP or S3, Dropbox, Google Drive, and more to OwnCloud. 1.6 million users of OwnCloud worldwide is the number they dropped in this release too, which is pretty amazing. 1.6 million users of OwnCloud. Here's another interesting new feature that might help folks that are in an office environment. OwnCloud documents now support Word conversion. The latest OwnCloud documents release includes the ability to convert Word documents on the fly for online editing. You convert a Word document online automatically when you upload it to OwnCloud. You can edit it live with others collaboratively in the browser, close it, and then once you close it, it will convert back to a Word document and save it back to your desktop with all of the changes included.
Dude, if that works and actually works as well as it sounds like it works, wow.
I know, right?
That's like, wow.
Yes.
That's a big friggin' deal.
Now going to the object store, this little updates here. OwnCloud can now leverage Swift object stores as primary storage for OwnCloud files. Users can create the best option for their specific needs. You can use local storage, a network file system mount like NFS, or Swift objects in the database. New user management, new mobile browser support, external storage, which is the one I'm the most interested in, major improvements, they say. The ability to add FTP, Dropbox, Google Drive, SFTP, Swift, S3, WebDAV, Samba, and more to OwnCloud now. Improvements include the ability for an admin to specify which storage types can be added by end users in the personal tab, so end users now have control over it individually, providing more granular control for external storage mounts, and further performance improvements to make externally mounted storage much more faster and more responsive. Isn't that nice?
That's fantastic.
So I'm also Active Directory and LDAP integration improvements if you are using it in a small business. Very excited.
And that's stuff you want, especially the LDAP.
All of these things we've just talked about, to me, really sound like gotta try them and see how they actually work in the real world. But I'm very excited by this stuff. I really want to get an OwnCloud 7 instance up and running. So if anybody has a Docker container out there with it already set up, let me know.
Absolutely. Otherwise, that would be great.
In a couple of weeks, I'll probably get around to setting it up and trying it out, because the server-to-server stuff, to me, is kind of huge. I could have an OwnCloud server here at JB1 Studios. We could have an OwnCloud server back at JBHQ, and then we could sync between JBHQ and JB1. Art assets for all the shows, like when we're working on logos or teaser images or whatever it is, it's constantly like, are you subscribed to this Dropbox? Do you have this BitTorrent sync key? It's this back and forth mess. Horrible. OwnCloud could bring all this under one cloud and offer, with the external storage mounts, sort of bring it all together and just give us a nice interface. And I'm really excited to try it out.
Yeah, if someone out there wants to do that, and then maybe email them or something, that'd be cool.
One of the things that I think we've kind of complained a little bit about is some of the performance issues, especially when using external storage, and it sounds like one of the things they worked on specifically in OwnCloud 7 is improving those things that were our pain points before.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm almost gleeful.
Yes, almost. We'll see. All right, I thought this was an interesting story. Russia to ditch Intel and AMD in favor of their own homegrown ARM chips, and of course, GNU/Linux.
And why do I have this, instead of like the Intel commercials, I picture Yakov Smirnoff dancing around in a bear costume or something? I don't know. I can see this, I don't know. I don't really, okay, do I understand the logic behind it? Yes. They're concerned about NSA stuff and blah, blah, blah. And
right,
But, are they
really going to do it?
I don't know.
That's just a false belief.
Ooh. Yeah.
That theory must be wrong.
So here's the details. According to a Russian business newspaper, that's where we're getting this from, the State Department and state-run companies have no plans to buy PCs built around Intel or AMD processors going forward. Instead, beginning in 2015, the government will order 700,000 personal computers annually worth $500 million and 300,000 servers worth $800 million based on the Baikal chip? The Baikal?
See, that's another thing, because I can't pronounce it, so
they plan to use GNU Linux. The Baikal processors will be built by Moscow-based Baikal Electronics. Boy, that's just awful. It's a unit of they're partially government. It's partially government funded. It's a defense contractor. The first products will be based on a 64-bit Cortex A57 made by a UK company. With a frequency of 2 gigahertz for personal computers and microservers, and the government will use GNU Linux on all of those systems.
Well, props on the using the GNU Linux. Not as far as taking a real performance hit, in my opinion, on your processor. Hey, whatever floats your boat.
And also, software availability for desktops and servers is really a different story on ARM than it is on x86.
Right.
I think their concern is that, like the NSA, like you said earlier, something like that.
And that I get. That's a valid thing. If I'm a country, I'm in Matland, and I don't necessarily want someone monitoring my stuff.
If you can build your own processors, I mean, the thing is ARM is bringing us to this point where you can opt to just make your own CPU, and with Linux, you can manage the OS stack too. So in some ways, I kind of look at this as like, well, why not? Why wouldn't all governments just do this? You can get the ARM spec, you can build the chip. If you do it with a domestic company, you can use an operating system that you can audit.
Right.
Yes, I agree with you. There is a performance gap today, especially today. But, first of all, maybe if you scale that out and you just have more systems, they use less power.
I mean, for myself personally, I would say, like data sensitive, critical stuff. Okay, I totally get it. I get it. Okay, whatever. But for like more passive things that are really not such an issue, I don't know. Are you splitting hairs at that point? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. As far as where Russia's coming from, they got to do what they got to do.
Hey, more servers, 700,000 desktops, 300,000. The one thing that kind of made this, I was thinking this was like, I wasn't even going to run this story at first. Yeah. And now I'm running it just so that way we kind of have it in the record. But I look at this and I go, well, they gave us some actual hard numbers here.
They did. Yeah. Here's what I hope happens. I hope they totally prove me wrong. They make this amazing chip and it does really well for them, and that's awesome because then that could, as you put, inspire other countries to do the same, and that would be cool.
More Linux is a good thing.
But processors are no easy task. I mean, that's a thing.
That's true.
That is. I mean, like that's big money. There's a reason why people aren't doing it in their garage.
Friend of the show, Joss Porvalit, he's been on before. He wrote up a blog over on the .kde.org. That's hard to say out loud when you actually have to say it. .kde.org. And it's about where KDE is going, and it's pretty long. These KDE guys, man, they like to post long.
They definitely like to express themselves.
Josh, it was a little long, but here's what I did. Here's what I did for the Linux Action Show audience. I went down and I distilled it to its most juiciest bits. So there's other goodies in there, other morsels, so I encourage you to read the whole thing. But a couple of things caught my attention. He talks about Plasma 5. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about original Plasma. He says, Plasma took some time to mature, in part due to its ambitious design, and in part because the technologies it is built upon were not mature enough for the needs of Plasma. This is still somewhat of a problem today, and the 4X series has workarounds to deal with the deficiencies in the platforms below it. This is why the next generation of Plasma technology comes in, right here. Conveniently named Plasma 5, it will bring pixel-perfect design and super smooth performance thanks to QML and Qt5 technologies and fully hardware-accelerated display rendering. High DPI support and the ability to work with Wayland, the next generation Linux display server, are planned as well, but neither are expected to be fully finished with the first release. Oh, our first couch statement there. All right, prepare yourselves, because this is a little bit about setting expectations, and as we go into this, you can see how Joss is sort of setting the stage to say, hey, yes, we're about to see Plasma 5 land, but here's what you need to understand. So we start to get into that. He says, with Plasma 5, the team can start working on bringing seamless switching of workspaces when moving from device to device. For example, plugging a keyboard and a mouse into a tablet can trigger Plasma to transform its tablet and touch-optimized UI into a desktop interface, and the applications being notified of the change can follow, adapting to a new form factor.
That's a very compelling feature. Okay.
Yeah, you might call it convergence, perhaps.
Convergence, yes.
Now here we go. These capabilities put in current Plasma are far ahead of any of the competitor, and the gap's only going to increase with the release of Plasma 5. But these features do not take away from the familiar interface. The Plasma team is fully aware of the value of established workflows of computer users and the need of not disrupting them. This means that there will be minimal feature loss or changes in the setup of the desktop. Just butter smooth performance, polished look, and more flexibility. Now here's the expectations part. They got usability experts, they say, working in various different areas of the KDE software, but it is a work in progress.
Right.
This will be the first release of a new generation of Plasma, and it will not be without issues. With substantial change in underlying stack comes new exciting and new crashes and new problems that need to be shaken out. This can also lead to visual artifacts While QML2 brings better look due to its seamless integration of OpenGL and more precise positioning, the immaturity of the Qt Quick Controls, the successor to the 15-year-old widget technology in Qt, will bring some rough edges in other areas. Moreover, as the latest beta announcement points out, performance is also heavily dependent on specific hardware and software configuration. So in some scenarios, Plasma 5 will display buttery smooth, and in some scenarios, it's going to run a little bit like butt. It's going to depend on the hardware a lot and the underlying drivers.
Props to him for acknowledging that, because I think that's a big step in the right direction, because then people can make an educated decision. But, of course, I would love to see this be readily available before someone updates their stuff.
And the thing they talk about that's kind of sometimes cool, they talk about the problem is in the drivers themselves in the lower stack, and we know what that means. Sometimes that means it just doesn't get addressed.
Are they finally going to take Phonon out to the curb and put a bullet in its brain?
I don't know. Because
that would be awesome, because that would get me using KDE again.
Plasma 5 scheduled for release in July 2014.
But yeah, that's cool. I love the features. I love the direction they're going. I love the fact, I can't express this enough, you guys are awesome for addressing the fact that you may have some bumps in the road. Good job on that.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Being upfront about it.
That goes a long way with me.
I agree. All right, Matt, let's talk a little about GNOME. So that was the KDE update. GNOME 3.13.3 is coming down the pipe soon. And here's some good news. You ever been running a GTK app and it starts up as root and it totally doesn't have your theme? It looks horrible, like
it always does. Yeah.
Old GTK.
90% of the time. Yeah.
I hate that. Right? Guess what?
They finally solved this.
Well, what they're doing is they have taken the Adwadia theme, which is that's all right, and it's now built into this as the default theme in GTK. So when GNOME or GTK falls back to its ugly, fugly mode, it will now at least be falling back to Adwadia, which has been also recently slightly improved. So it's a pretty good fallback now. Also, speaking of file sharing, which we'll be talking about in just a little bit, now that their file sharing infrastructure has become network aware, so it knows what your network state is and what network you're on, they're going to allow you now to change what you're sharing via GNOME based on the network you're attached to. So, when you're here at JB1, maybe your porn share isn't on, but when you go home, the porn share automatically turns on because it's aware of what network you're on. Of course, this would also work for like TV media streaming. They're going to, through GNOME online accounts, they'll know what media servers are on your network and automatically be able to turn on like DLNA streaming or turn it off. So that way you don't go to work and broadcast your photos and your video library, but when you come home, it just automatically works for you. And Fedora will be working hand in hand in the firewall that ships with Fedora to make all of this stuff just work with the firewall too.
I love the awareness, and I love the fact I can access my goodies wherever I need to.
Heck yeah, Matt. And GNOME Show will also now remember which workspace your windows were open on when you disconnect external monitors and reconnect them. So if you've got multiple workspaces going with your chat and your terminal in one workspace, you plug the monitor in, it'll put them right back in the right spot. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. And of course, they're also planning to have GNOME 3.14, which will be the final stable version of all this stuff, shipping in Fedora 21 around that time, so of course other distros will get it too.
Yeah, very cool.
Which means if they're planning to have it, so you'll probably have an Arch about 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Fedora 21 ships.
That'd be awesome. One thing I really hope they address is that massive memory gobbling thing in System Monitor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because like even just having it run in the background, like when you have the little monitor on your on the bottom of your tray there. It's kind of a thing.
And also, so that's blogs.gnome.org. And of course, as Vicky's pointed out in the chat room, you can also check out worldofgnome.org for another write-up on GNOME 3.
Good stuff.
Why don't we talk a little bit about, we're going to move right on to Linux Mint 17 KDE. Just a quick release. One of the way these Mint releases work is all of the new features of the previous Mint releases are included with this one, just with KDE. So we've talked about Mint 17 quite a bit. I thought maybe instead of talking about it, we take a look at Mint 17 KDE Edition. So here it is when you first log in. You get this welcome screen. Here's something I thought was kind of interesting. So again, they're rocking the update manager. You got your number, so just like you're familiar with it on other versions of Mint. They've really embraced using system settings. They've integrated a lot of their specific stuff into the general KDE system settings. Here's the thing about Mint's implementation of KDE.
Okay.
They are all in on Oxygen, Matt. They are B deep.
They're breathing deep.
They're all about the Oxygen theme, Oxygen icons, everything. So that's a risky move because Oxygen can look like butt. But if you really double down on it and you combine it with a good white color theme and all that kind of stuff, which they have, they're currently using just Oxygen cold. You bring it all together, you give it a nice background, and then where they really seal the deal is they've done a really fantastic job of setting up the GTK application theming so that way GTK apps really look good. And now, obviously, This is all stuff you could do on your own in about
sure.
15 minutes. The fact of the matter is, though, this is a Linux Mint release that's going to be supported until 2019, running KDE, that does a really good job of making multiple desktop environments work together. In fact, to prove a point, I installed gedit under KDE, and damned if that don't look like a KDE application.
That looks like Kate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is not a. There's the point I'm trying to make here is this is not going to be like the. This won't be the release where we go, oh man, if only they would have implemented KDE like Linux Mint did. This isn't that release.
Right.
This is just a good, solid doubling down on what the core of KDE is right now, sitting on top of Mint. Supported for a long time. I think that's the core things to take away from this release, and in that regard, I think it's really nailed.
Well, and I think one thing they're really hitting on too is they're trying very hard to unify GTK and the KDE environments, and rather than getting all political about it, they're like, look, you use what you got to use. We're going to make it all look natural and integrated and tight. And they did a really nice job with that.
It does, yeah. It's exactly what you want. It's got all of the Plasma widgets you'd want to use out of the box. It integrates in with their software package manager. Speaking of software, here's the software manager right here. I'll pull it up. It's just like you would expect on the other desktops. Nice and straightforward. It's much more functional than Ubuntu Software Center, which I've been working with Chase on him switching over to Linux, and the Software Center for Chase has been a total disaster.
Oh God!
He will not even use it now. He hates it so much. He's just not even interested. I feel like this would be much more up his alley, even though on the surface it looks less feature. Rich.
It seems to be, but in reality, it's faster and it gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. It's the core of what you want to get done, and it's really good at that. Like you want UNet booting, you just go in here, you click install. Now you've got UNet booting. You're done.
You're done. Yeah.
You can keep going about your business.
We need your Ubuntu One login, please. Oh yeah, we discontinued that. Sorry.
Yeah, the whole thing is just a lot smoother. And Mint's a great release, and they're going to be supporting this one for a while. So that's just a quick look at the KDE edition. I'll keep playing with it for a little while, and if I have any more thoughts, I'll follow up in Linux Unplugged coming up in a little bit.
Good stuff.
Hey, one last thing I just wanted to kind of ask folks about. Are you going to attend Tor Camp? T-O-R Camp. Not like Tor like the Onion Router, but Tor like the American Hacker Camp on the coast of Washington. I guess it's like the farthest west point of the United States.
Wow, really?
Of the continental United States.
I was going to say, I think Aleutian Islands might have them beat on that.
Yeah. It's like it's a hacker conference that goes down every year. It's like Burning Man for geeks and hackers. It's a combination of a camping event, a makers event, and also they have a resort. There was a write-up last, I think in 2012, by Computer World about the event. It looks really good. People are there. I see them working with Linux stuff. I see them building things. I saw shots of Raspberry Pis and videos and other crazy things. So I was just curious if anybody's planning to go to Tour Camp, and if they were, we'd do a little meetup. It's a 4.5-hour drive from the JB1 studios, so I only want to go if there's going to be some folks there. But if you are, check it out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, too, and then just let us know. Tweet me at ChrisLAS if you're going to go. And I'll put that together, and I'll give you guys a future update. It's on July 9th, so it's pretty soon. Yeah. And it runs through the 13th. I'd probably only go for a day or two. But I thought if we do go, go down there, bring a camera, some mics, do some interviews, get some on-scene stuff for you guys, and bring it back here and show you some of the Linuxy goodness going on at the American Hacker Camp.
Nice.
All right, Matt, that's all the news for this week. Back to solve some of Chase's problems under Linux, but before we do that, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System76, creators of machines designed, built, born to run Linux, and both Chase and I have been lucky enough to be rocking Bonobos.
These are great.
These are like, one thing about the Bonobo that is always true is you're going to be able to throw any workload at it, and it's going to handle it. Gaming, encoding.
That's what I've been doing, is the gaming thing. It can handle it. I've been playing Euro Truck Simulator off of Steam. I'm dead serious. Nice. If you look at my desktop, I have a shortcut to it, so I get right to it.
That sounds like your kind of game.
It's great, yeah.
Oh, well, and the nice thing is they've got desktops, too, built right here in the US of A. They've got all kinds of laptops, including things like the Ultra Pro that are super slim and lightweight with a gorgeous IPS 1080p display and the Iris graphics that back that up, all wrapped around a Core i7 processor with SSD storage. Go over to System76.com and get a machine that's designed to run Linux. That way you can start playing with Linux and you stop fighting with your hardware. I think this is really a great opportunity if you've been looking to replace a machine. If you want to give somebody a great experience with Linux, you want to make sure you hand them a box and it's going to be trouble-free, System76.com. Go over to System76.com and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. And a big thank you to System76 for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Now, a lot of you guys know that I'm making the transition from Windows to Linux to help build my skills and learn more about the great platform that it is. However, on my trek, I've been having some issues trying to figure out how to do some simple things like moving files from my Windows systems to my Linux system.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I'm so used to going into a file manager, even on Windows and Mac, and just moving
You just
files.
see all the machines on the network.
Right, yeah, and I see all the machines, and not only that, I can get into them.
Right.
And then I can just drag and drop files and copy them over. Now, right now, what I've been doing, Chris, is using a thumb drive. And just moving files.
That's like the floppy drive of our generation now.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you tried it. You got in your file manager there. And
oh yeah, let me show you guys. This is real time here. What's going on?
Right.
So I see it. Hey,
there's your machine, right?
Windows Network.
Yeah.
There's the network. So what happens
Shouldn't be a problem, right?
I double click on it. That's my thing. And all right, yeah, that's what I need to do. And then boom, I get this error. Wait, what do you mean unable to access? I'm on my network.
Yeah.
So what?
I know,
Doctor.
It can be quite confusing.
Doctor. Help me. Give me a prescription.
All
here.
right, I'll write you a prescription. So let me tell you.
right.
So what this is honestly, Linux boxes out of the box per se don't necessarily support by default Windows Server Message Block Protocol. That's Samba or SMB.
I'm a little shocked, but no, I'm not shocked. I mean, yeah, it's a different operating system.
If you were going, though, from Linux box to Linux box, you might have everything you need already. You have SSH probably installed on both ends, and you can actually use SSH to transfer files between Linux computers. So when you get to multiple Linux computers, I'll show you how you can do that.
All right.
To start today, I'll show you how to set up the Samba support. And do you want to be able to connect to Windows boxes, or do you want to be able to connect to Windows boxes and have Windows boxes connect to you?
I would like eventually to get all the way.
We can do
like
both. That's no problem. We'll just take both. We'll take care of both of them right now.
Oh, cool.
You'll be surprised at how easy it is. So bring up your. Now I know. Everybody, brace yourself. I'm going to walk Chase through the terminal. The reason is. Chase hasn't been totally thrilled with the Software Center necessarily, and I totally understand that. But also, I wanted to do something on the terminal this time because last time, a couple of weeks ago, we showed you how to use gdeb-i, a graphical way to install packages. This week, we're going to show you how to install software via the terminal. This is a prelude to you and I doing a deep dive into software repositories because I think there's one thing you've got to learn about Linux that is such a unique advantage is the whole software repository and management aspect.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a little bit of how that works under the hood this week. So go ahead and open up your terminal there.
And by the way, it's not like I'm not used to going into an area where there's text.
Sure.
I do it all the time. I've gone into DOS and stuff, so it's no big deal.
All right. So now, have you already copied the command?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll also have this command in the show notes. Why don't you do this, though, first? Before you paste that command in, type in sudo, that's super user do, space, apt-get space update.
Space update.
This is a good idea.
What does this do?
Go ahead and hit enter there. We'll let that run. You put in your super secure password that we've set up for you here.
Super secret.
This goes out. It talks to all of the web servers out there that have packages available for this installation of your Linux machine here. So this is going out and updating all of the available software repositories.
Now, how often does somebody have to do this? Do you have to do it before every installation, or is this something you do periodically?
There's no one answer to that. It's a good question. Usually, if you're going to do any software installation, it's not a bad idea if it's the first time you're installing software for this day to do it.
Okay.
Because it can change daily, because this is also security updates, all that kind of stuff.
So this could be essentially, like you said, no matter what you're installing, run this command so you have the most up-to-date
I would recommend that, especially when you're doing something like installing software like Samba. So now you should have that command in your clipboard, right? Because we copied it from our show notes. So go ahead and paste that in there.
Okay.
And that's doing an apt-get install of Samba's common files, and a few other things. So go ahead and hit enter there.
All right.
And we'll have that in the show notes. Hit yes to that.
All right.
Is
this basically kind of like double-checking and telling me what's going in?
So you'll see here, it's going to say, I'm going to install these software packages, but these extra packages are also going to be installed because what you've just asked me to install also needs these other packages. So it's going to automatically go out.
That's that dependencies thing you're talking
exactly.
about. Okay.
So it's going to go out and get those, and it's going to say, hey, bro, by the way, if you want additional functionality, you could also, may I suggest, installing these packages.
I see.
Now, we don't need any of those particular packages for what we're about to do because it's one of them's like the time client.
So just because it says suggested doesn't mean it's going to install?
Nope, it won't.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So I'll just hit yes here?
Hit yes, yep. And then it'll continue with the ones we've asked to go out. It goes out and retrieves these from our server that you've set up here. So this one you can see it's like us.ubuntu or whatever. I can't quite see.
Does it automatically pick the most efficient place to get it to?
You can choose. You choose, yeah. And there's like scripts out there that will go out there and do it for you.
Got it. Cool.
All right. Now we've got Samba installed, but we've still got your terminal up. Let's enable your account to have the ability to log in from a Windows box.
So basically, I'm on a Windows box. I see my Bonobo, and then I can actually basically log into that, right?
With your account.
Okay.
So type out the command sudo smb password -a for add, and then your user account, which in this case is last. Hit enter there.
All right.
Now it's going to ask you for a password. So I would probably keep it the same as your login password, so that way it's simple to remember. And hit enter, and then you're going to confirm it one more time. All right. Now hit up arrow.
Okay.
And replace that -a with E. So you've added the user to the database, and now hit enter, and you're going to enable the user.
Enable.
2 separate processes.
Ah, there we go.
So now
Cool.
your user can connect once we have Samba up and configured. We haven't done that yet.
All right, Chris, now that we have it all set up and ready to go, I like to know how to do a direct connection. So now usually I'm not at home, obviously, but at home I would enter the IP address or the name of the box, but you have a FreeNAS box, so we can demonstrate this.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Okay. So bring up your file manager there, Chase.
Cool.
And you're going to go over to the Browse Network section on the left-hand side of the file manager.
All right.
Or actually, I'm sorry, let's do a direct connection. Connect to server.
All right.
And then you see we were trying this earlier right there. The syntax is pretty simple. Type in SMB.
SMB.
Yep.
So this is going to be universal for everything.
Any Windows box, anything with a Samba share, :// and then FreeNAS, that's our FreeNAS box.
Got it.
And you could put the whole share in there, or if you just hit connect right here at this point, it'll show you the shares that are available on that box, and then you just will be able to authenticate and connect to those. So there you go.
So there's the box.
There's our Buttermere.
Oh, wow.
And there's all our files.
Wow.
Very nice, right?
That's simple.
And you see right here on the left-hand side, it also mounted it as a folder, so now your other programs will be able to see that as almost like an extension of your file system.
And you can read and write and drag and drop and do all those things you want to do?
Oh, yeah. You'll be able to open up files off of it, play video, all that kind of stuff, and copy files back and forth. You're set.
Now, that assumes, of course, that when you set up your box that you have permissions, right? That you set up that ability.
And that you had to use, so we had a Studio FreeNAS account that allowed you to connect like that. So you'd have to have that same thing set up on the Windows box.
Which I already do at home anyway, so...
Your problem solved.
Sweet.
All right, now, how about we go from Windows to your Linux box? So now we have to set up, that was the Samba client. Now we have to set up the Samba server. So there's 2 ways you can do this. Let's just start with the easiest way. Go back to your file manager there.
All right.
And just go to your home directory or something.
Right home.
And right-click, say, on Documents right there.
All right.
And you see that option right there. Local network share. That's because we installed a package called Nautilus-Share.
Okay.
And we have that in the show notes. If you click that,
and this is very, very similar to what you would find sharing on Windows, sharing ...
I would argue that looks even simpler, doesn't it?
Actually, this is a lot better.
Yeah, it's just you share the folder, there you can say who has access to it. That's very simple.
And then I can also create guest access, so if I want to have this discoverable on the network, they don't need a password, they can just go right on it.
And they would only have read access.
Read access, got it.
Now, this is pretty lightweight. So close that. Okay. We installed another. This one actually comes from a completely different distribution, but because open source is awesome, it's available in Ubuntu too. It's available in most distributions. Nice. So go into your search there and search for Samba. It'll just come right up when you type in Samba. Oh, okay. The actual package command is system-config-samba.
Okay.
But when you install, it's just Samba is the command you search for to find it. Right. This is a graphical interface made by Red Hat to make setting up Samba shares a lot easier. So click that big green plus right there.
Oh, nice.
And this is where you can say the directory you want, the name of it, give it a description, if it's writable, if it's visible on the network,
so
all that kind of stuff.
So I can go to my file system, go back to my home directory.
Sure, yep. Go in there. And then say, choose documents or downloads or whatever it was.
Documents and hit that, and now that's...
Yeah, and check out that access tab too. I think that's an important one. This is where if you had multiple user accounts, or if you wanted to have a friend's account, you could give them some access, or you could just say everybody has access.
I'm going to give everybody.
All right, and then under basic, check your... that's all right. Go back in there.
So let's just go back in here, do a
double click on that, or you can hit, and then just make sure you also make it writable and visible. There you go. And then, you could put Chase's stash or something in there.
Yeah, got it.
And that'll actually show up in the network neighborhood browser
also
on Windows.
On the description, so people would see that. Nice.
So hit OK there.
All right.
And then there's an apply, I think, under the file menu there.
Actually, no.
Oh, no, maybe there's not. Maybe I misspoke.
Yeah.
So that's all how you do it graphically. Go ahead and close that.
Okay.
Now I'll show you where all that's being written to so you can see how it works under the hood.
Right.
Type in, we don't even have to do it as root. We're just going to look at the file. We can skip root access, type in gedit.
Gedit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Space /etsy
/Samba
/smb.conf. .conf. And there's lots of text editors under Linux, Chase. Lots of text editors, but gedit's a graphical one that comes with your GNOME desktop. This is actually the config file that drives all of the settings of Samba.
All right, Chris.
Now, this looks a little...
This is a lot.
Right. And you could see how if you were doing this by hand, you might make a mistake, right?
Right, yeah.
So the Samba developers are going to hook you up. So if you're messing around with Samba and you have problems, close that window and type in the command test parm. It's one word, test PARM, and hit enter. Okay. This does a sanity check of your Samba configuration. And if there's anything wrong with your Samba configuration, it'll kick it out right here.
Oh.
And so it's also, and if you hit enter, it'll list all of the effective settings. So this has distilled everything in that configuration file to only the things that are actually applied. So that way you don't have to read through all those comments. You can just see a straight dump of how your Samba server is configured, and it is so helpful for troubleshooting.
And then there's the one that I just added, Chase's Stash. And it says guest is okay, read only.
Yep.
Is that no? Because someone can write to it.
So that gives you an idea of how that GUI tool was writing to a configuration file in the backend. And the beauty part is now that you have this set up, if you ever reloaded this box, you just save that config file, drop it back on there, and you're done.
Well,
nothing else to set
It's really
up.
helpful for someone like me when you're using a GUI, but then all of a sudden you want to know how it's actually being written.
You can go do that.
You can actually see that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
So there's a lot of ways you could skin this particular carrot, and we'll have links in the show notes for more guides, more thorough setups. Also, if you want to share files on your LAN through Samba or maybe SSH, that could be a decision you have to make, especially if you're only on Linux/Unix boxes. You could just skip Samba altogether. Maybe NFS might be a way you want to go. That's all future segments for us, but it's something you can look into right now by checking out the show notes.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. That was great.
You bet, buddy. Now go have fun sharing files.
See ya!
And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But hey, Matt, before we got out of here, I had a few little follow-up and feedback items and some business and whatnots to get to. And this first one, we just ran that how-to segment, and I go back to like why we wanted to do how-to Linux, and the reason is like there is such a barrier to switching to Linux, and once you get there, there's like this combination of sort of a smoke screen where people have been blowing smoke up your butt a little bit about what Linux can do. And there's this huge, like, totally different way of thinking about things. And there is a voicemail that has been making it around the internet this week. And I want to play this not to make fun of the caller in the voicemail, because what he's facing is not his fault and happens to a lot of people. But it helps remind all of us that's where we need to remember where these people might be coming from.
The threshold, if you will.
Yeah, because as Linux experts, we sometimes forget. So here is a voicemail of a Linux user's dad calling up, talking to him about the lady and what she said about Linux.
Okay.
Chad, it's your dad. Hey, when you get a chance, give me a call. This woman says that Linux is since we have Windows not licensed to have Linux on it. And that didn't sound right to me because of what you told me, but give me a call and let me know what's going on here. This is your dad.
Well, and see, but he gets 1 point over most. Whoa, hello.
Hey, go SoundCloud, go.
He gets 1 point over most people. Is the fact that he said that doesn't sound right to me based on what you told me. He was paying attention. He caught this woman on her nonsense.
Right.
So, there's no reason to downthink the guy.
I like to play it because I think it's a good perspective of like, it's really confusing. There's a lot of people out there that want to switch to Linux, but it's just a totally different way of thinking about computers and software.
Well, there's a brick and mortar world of people designed to keep you from using it. I mean, legitimately.
Yeah.
The big box stores of the world that are trying to get you to use these other operating systems. So,
I think that's exact. And there's an entire infrastructure and commercial system set up around selling those systems.
Yes.
And I don't even think it's any malice on their part. It's just, to them, this is how the industry works.
Well, I used to be in PC repair, and there's a lot of techs out there, even to this day, although especially it was really bad, say, like 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
The ignorance was astounding as to they read it somewhere that it was just going to cause problems, breaks things, whatever. And experts in the field would tell people this stuff. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a real issue.
And I've heard all kinds of things like, oh, Linux is that hacker OS and all that kind of stuff. And so
people have been told it'll break your system. It will break your stuff. It will ruin your hardware. I mean, you'd be amazed.
We are lucky enough that the Linux Action Show it's viewed by a ton of Linux experts, people who live Linux and ran Linux forever, and it's viewed by the whole spectrum, new users, and also a lot of people who are cautiously watching to decide if Linux is right for them. In fact, that's a surprising number of people who watch this show to sort of live the Linux experience from afar while they're making their decision. And one of the things we want to do is we want to incorporate more of those how-to segments into the Linux Action Show itself, because this is already the destination those people are coming to, and we can reach them. And I think it helps sort of that audience, and also helps our core audience, the folks who are the more experienced Linux users, remember that we also, how we need to think about what these people are facing, what these challenges are. Because, we've been working with Chase, and the advantage that having him there is he asks questions that are honestly at this point just hard for me to even consider, because there's just so many pieces in place for me now.
Exactly.
And it is really enlightening to hear where they're coming from. And so hopefully we can contribute something to this space. And so stay tuned. You'll see more of that stuff. Shifting gears a little bit, we got a message from Mr. Drizz on the subreddit. Mr. Drizz. He says, hey, is there going to be a JB Patreon for a whole? So he wants to ditch in and maybe ditch his Amazon subs and switch over to Patreon, but he wants to support the whole network, not a specific show.
Ah, okay.
Which is a great question. Now, if you're not familiar with Patreon, it's a new-ish platform. It's been around for a little while now, and it's specifically designed around content creators, people who are making movies and videos and TV shows and podcasts and like music videos and all kinds of stuff, even Let's Play folks.
Platform.
Yeah, it's really cool, but specifically around content. And they have like a perk system for people who support the content creators. You can get access to exclusivities, and it's nice. It's in some ways it's very Kickstarter-like, because you see the funding listed out there. It's very transparent. There's milestones and goals. And so we've launched a few shows, a couple of shows on Patreon. The big effort is the Tech Talk Today Patreon, because this is funding the whole network. This is what Tech Talk Today is basically my justification to say, all right, well, if I'm going to ask people to contribute their hard-earned money into the Jupiter Broadcasting Network, if I'm going to ask them to invest in us to keep us going, just to make myself feel better, I'm going to give them something for doing that. And that's what Tech Talk Today is. It's a daily technology talk show, and it's centered around raising funds for the Jupiter Broadcasting Network. It's a good way to stay up to date with the community, participate in our Mumble Room, and when we reach funding milestones for the network, we celebrate them through Tech Talk Today.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying, hey, look, you're willing to help fund this network. That's awesome. Let me do you a solid and present you with this great show topic.
And we're trying to give, like, there's like, I post some videos that only the patrons get. Patreon, what's great about it is the way they do their bulk processing of the transactions means that it costs Jupiter Broadcasting less than Amazon or PayPal does.
Right.
So more of your money is going towards us. The other thing that's really nice about it is they're implementing either like direct debit or credit card or PayPal, and soon they'll have Bitcoin support.
Nice.
And what I want to do is we want to grow the network. I want to hire some contractors to take care of a few things for us. I also want to get some on-location equipment and maybe like some backup equipment, so that way when we have failures, we're not just like totally out like we were almost last week or the week before. And so all of these require funding. And normally the way to raise funds would be to just take on more advertisers. And there is a place for that, but I feel like the better route to go is a mix between crowdfunding and advertiser funding, sort of a blending. That way the network isn't dependent on any one particular funding source, so that way if one goes away, we don't go away.
Right.
I think that's a major problem that internet businesses have to solve all the time, and this is our way. Plus, going the crowdfunding route means that you guys are more directly the owners, you're the boss, we report to you, and we keep the ads at a minimum.
That's good point.
Yeah, so patreon.com/today is where you can go to contribute to the Jupiter Broadcasting Network. By default, I ask that you could pledge $3, and that's really to contribute to keeping Tech Talk Today going. We have different pledge levels, including some limited swag slots. We're not going to do a lot of these because these are hard from like an operations standpoint to pull off, but from time to time, we will be shipping out free swag to those of you who join that pledge level over at patreon.com/today. You can read about it. I got more information over there.
And I think those are really important pledge levels, because those are the ones that really allow you guys to do what you need to do.
Make a difference.
That's right.
Yeah. So patreon.com/today if you'd like to contribute to the Jupiter Broadcasting Network. And check out Tech Talk Today. We had a great Google-packed week last week because of I.O. We had a live I.O. coverage. So if you missed any of the Google I.O. stuff, you can go watch that episode. It's the full thing with our commentary.
Nice.
We got a question about Linux without internet from Rolf. Rolf writes and says, hi, Chris and Matt. I've been using Linux for about a year and a half now and can't imagine using anything else. I'm on KX Studio, which is amazing. It's Ubuntu-based for my audio production. My home internet went down for a few weeks, and although I'm fine with software not updating for a while, it got me thinking about Linux and its internet dependency. So my internet went down. just when I was beginning to set up a fresh install of KX Studio, so I couldn't do things like install the NVIDIA proprietary driver or Wine or etc. Things I need to do my production, things I manually install. So he wants to know, are there any package formats on Linux that contain programs with all the dependencies for easy offline installation? Stay tuned for that. More on that. He says, are there any better, faster ways to install software online? He says, thanks for the great show. Last is the reason he deleted his Windows partition a year and a half ago and never looked back. Hey!
Nice.
That's awesome. He's also in South Africa, so he doesn't often get to watch live, but he says keep up the good work. So, Matt, any ideas, if somebody knows they're going to say, let's say a couple of weeks, how would you prepare if you were going to be disconnected from the internet for a couple of weeks?
App to CD probably be, if I'm going to be doing an Ubuntu situation, that'd probably be one of my go-to things.
That's a good one.
There's some alternatives as well that aren't coming to mind at the moment, but that's like one of the ones that really stuck in my brain.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like also
there used
like
to be a service you could actually do CD-wise.
I was thinking also of like maybe just like doing a mirror of a repository, but then like how do you know what to pick?
Yeah, and that's where kind of
you do everything, there, and then it's just specifically what you use. Well, that's a little nicer.
You can kind of choose and pick a little bit.
You set up like a local mirror, possibly of like I don't know. So what I did is I created a form you guys can fill out. It's embedded in the show notes. It's just one question. How would you prepare for an internet apocalypse? It could be anything. You could even you Windows users are welcome to fill it out. What would you do? I'd be curious to see if we can find a few really great ideas in there and make a show topic out of it potentially. It's not just packages. It's everything. Yeah. How would you prepare for like your media consumption, all that kind of stuff, your podcast
that
watching?
Could be a thing too.
What would you do? How do you manage that storage? Because let's be realistic. You know, you got your whatever storage you're going to have like in a laptop. Maybe it's an SSD, so it's tight. So what would you do for the internet apocalypse? Let us know. The form is in the show notes. And also, speaking of the show notes, Icarus's video about the Linux game history, there's some good stuff in here. Especially I like the part about Loki. If you don't know what Loki was or is and why it's one of the most important things that happened to Linux gaming in the history of Linux gaming, you should probably watch this talk.
Yeah, I'd say more important, by far more important than even Valve.
If you don't know what SDL or OpenAL is and how important those are, you should probably watch this talk. And if you're kind of curious how the Humble Bundle started as just a one-time experiment and exploded into the phenomenon it is, you can watch this talk.
Nice.
And also his thoughts on SteamOS and things like that. Iculus has been the go-to porter for the Linux game industry for many years now, and so his insights and perspective on history are unique. And
he qualifies as an expert in the field. He knows what he's talking about.
The go-to resource. Matt, what about you? What are you up to throughout the week?
I don't know. As you can find me at datamation.com. Scroll down to open source.
Oh,
and,
really?
I'm doing stuff there.
Check
just
that
kind
out.
of a quick breeze through the switching to Ubuntu. Nothing real heavy there, but just kind of some quick tips.
Something folks could send to someone who might be switching.
Exactly. Just some things to consider.
Very nice. You're not doing any of that crazy gaming, are you?
No. There's no wine gaming going on there.
No geek in the gamer at all.
Right.
Oh. Yeah, another video. You guys are cranking these things out.
Yeah, I actually had another one. It was supposed to be released last night that didn't get edited.
Oh.
So this was for Wednesday because we try and do them twice a week.
There you go. Check out youtube.com/geekandthegamer. Also, Linux Unplugged on Tuesdays. This Tuesday, we're going to launch a new initiative with some audience participation. We're going to get some new insights and perspectives on something that we do a lot here on the show. We want to get your take on it, so we'll make that announcement in this week's Linux Unplugged on Tuesday.
Nice.
Also, if you enjoyed last week's Linux Action Show look at Southeast Linux Fest, go check out episode 46 of Linux Unplugged. We played even more exclusive interviews from Southeast Linux Fest. Some good stuff.
Good stuff, must listen.
Yes. And last but not least, please get involved over at our subreddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. That's a great way to contribute, to comment, give your perspectives on stories. We work all that into what we're doing.
Definitely.
And you can also submit a Runs Linux pick or an app pick. I would love to get some app pick suggestions, something you really love on the Linux desktop that you really haven't heard us talk about, or on the server. And bonus points if it's command line. I love the command line ones, but GUI ones are great too. All of that stuff submitted over at linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Also, you'll find a feedback thread for this very episode.
Nice.
All right, Matt. Well, I think that just about wraps us up for this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Don't forget to join us live on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific over at jblive.tv. You can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, and our robots will instantly convert it to your local time zone. Nice and easy. You can also email us. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com and click that contact link. Choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down, and then our monkeys will make sure those get delivered to the correct location. Robot for time, monkeys for mail delivery.
The best of all worlds.
Yeah. Again, we don't depend on any one particular type of technology.
Nope.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. All right, Matt. Maybe Rikai can put this in the outtakes for us because we got to talk to the community about something. I noticed something that went down over the weekend in the Linux Action Show subreddit, and I was like, really? Really? That makes my ball sack itch. You shouldn't be doing that. I know. It was like one of these things where I'm like, come on now.
You didn't have your ball sack itch scratcher?
I don't prefer it when my ball sack itches at all. And so, okay. And it was submitted by Ick, go figure. To the Linux Action Show subreddit is Integros Arch. I don't really blame him for submitting it. It's an interesting story. These things to me are like Linux user masturbation, right? This is, go in there and, look at the benchmarks and, then quibble over the fact that it's an Intel HD 4000 or blah, 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 or whatever.
Okay.
But anyways, I'll tell you the direction I didn't like things going.
Okay,
in.
fair enough.
Now, community, come in. Come in. Now, Papa Bear's going to tell you something. Because I've been using Linux for a long time. Now, come here. All right, now listen. It's all the same stuff. Linux is Linux. It doesn't matter if it's Fedora. It don't matter if it's Ubuntu or Arch. They're just different snapshots of the same beast with little tiny tweaks. And it don't really matter. If you gave me a Fedora 20 box with Btrfs on an SSD, and then you gave me a Fedora 20 box with Extended 4 on an SSD, there would be a difference. If you compared that against an Arch box, there would be a difference. You see, guys, it's just silly to get all worked up, but nonetheless, Matt, almost 30 comments of people battling. Look how big these posts are. Look how much time these people spent writing about this.
This is where you want the like the old autoplay wave files for like the Star Trek battle music between Spock and Kirk for this entire thread. I think that would be appropriate.
I mean, it's fun to talk about this kind of stuff, but what I don't like is the whole, I knew it. I knew Arch was slow, or that's not a fair comparison, or then it gets into like comparing like default kernel configurations of one distro. It's come on, you guys. It's all the same thing. It's all Linux, and if you install Linux, you can tweak any distribution to run differently than any other distribution.
Well, here's a fun way to look at it. You got a couple of speedboats, okay, and you're trying to smuggle Linux across the border, okay? So now, depending on how much you load onto that speedboat as to how quick it is. Here's an interesting point. Same thing with the Linux distro of your choice. The more crap that's bundled into it as far as like for starting up and whatnot, that can affect it.
Sure.
You can take anything and strip it down, like I did with this very Debian-based distro, and it was very speedy.
And sometimes you can have your distros that do like the preloading, or they'll do something fancy, right? Maybe they'll put like a super souped-up schedule in there or something, and those make minor differences. But again, I think what got me, Matt, is like people are like, oh, this proves this, or oh, this means that, and it's like, no, it just means nothing actually.
I can bloat the hell out of anything. If I want
you could
to.
make any distribution slow. You can make any distribution fast, and and if anything, you see, a rolling distribution is going to be a mixed bag, because it's going to be sometimes a kernel update's going to like make the video driver way better or something like that, and sometimes it's going to there's going to be regression. So there's improvements and there's regression. So like comparing a static distro to a rolling distro is almost not quite a one-to-one thing either, because a rolling release, depending on when you test it, will perhaps perform immensely better than a snapshot distribution, and sometimes it will perform woefully worse, like just horribly worse. So it's one of these things where it's like, okay, go read it and have fun, and Michael gotcha, yeah, Laravel got your clicks, but like, come on, let's simmer down. I like the discussions happening, but I feel like we didn't have to get so like at each other's throats over something that's obviously just sort of nerd masturbation.
I think so. I think it's all about putting the baseball bats away and getting out of here and just sitting back and just chilling. Have the conversation without throwing stuff at each other like angry monkeys. That would be my suggestion.
What would have been interesting too is maybe have the conversation go in the direction of ultimate like performance tips, because we could then turn that into a show.
It's like, hey, I'm running blah distro. Here's how I made it really fast. That's cool.
And you
that's
see, guys, that's all we wanted to say. And with that, we'll just say, problem solved.